You know that corner of your house, or that folder on your desktop, the guitar you haven't touched in 8 months, the business plan you wrote but never launched, the journal with exactly 4 entries, the online course sitting at 12% completion. And every time you walk past any of it, there's this quiet voice that says the same thing. You never finish anything. And the worst part is, you've started to believe it. Here's what I want you to understand before we go any further. The shame you feel about that graveyard is not coming from the unfinished projects. It's coming from something much older than any of them. Here's what's actually happening in your brain. Neuroscientists have found that every time you encounter something genuinely new and interesting, your brain releases dopamine before you even start. Not as a reward for finishing, as a reward for beginning, for the possibility. Your brain is literally wired to feel excitement at the start of something. That surge, that obsessive first week energy where you're watching every YouTube video and buying every supply, that's not a character flaw. That's your dopamine system doing exactly what it was designed to do. But here's where it gets complicated. That same brain, the one that lights up for novelty, eventually gets familiar with the new thing. And familiar doesn't produce the same chemical reward. So the energy dips. And the moment it dips, something else kicks in. Something that was there long before the guitar or the journal or the business plan. A voice that says, if you can't do it well, there is no point doing it at all. That voice isn't about the project. That's a much older story about what it means to be enough. Think about where you learned that. Most people who carry deep shame about unfinished things grew up in environments where completion was the only thing that got acknowledged, where trying and stopping was the same as failing, where your effort meant nothing if it didn't produce a visible result. So you internalized a rule: finishing equals worth, and anything sitting in that graveyard is just evidence against you. But that rule was never true. It was just the only framework you were given. Here is what the research actually says. Dr. Todd Kashdan at George Mason University found that people who regularly explore new interests, even ones they abandon, score significantly higher in life satisfaction, resilience, and personal growth than people who stick rigidly to one path. The exploration itself changes you. The abandoned guitar taught your fingers something. The unfinished course rewired how you think about that subject. The journal, with 4 entries, held 4 moments you chose to be honest with yourself. None of that disappears because you stopped. The graveyard is not a museum of your failures. It is a record of every time your brain was alive enough to want something. Every time you said yes to curiosity before fear could talk you out of it. The problem was never that you started too many things. The problem is that you were handed a measuring stick that only counts what you finish. And you've been using it on yourself ever since. And here's the part that really needs to be said. The projects that hurt the most to look at. The business plan that got to page 7 and stopped. The course that felt genuinely exciting until it didn't. Those are not proof that you gave up. They are proof that you cared enough to begin. Starting something takes more courage than most people acknowledge. It means you believed, even briefly, that something better was possible for you, that you were capable of more. The person who never starts anything never has to face a graveyard, but they also never have a single moment of genuine aliveness to look back on either. So the next time that quiet voice shows up, the one that points at the corner of your room and uses it against you, try saying something different back. Not because you have to force positivity, but because the honest truth is this. Every single thing in that graveyard represents a version of you that was still trying, still curious, still reaching. That's not someone who lacks discipline or grit. That's someone who has been carrying a shame they were never supposed to own in the first place. Put it down. You were never meant to be measured that way. And the moment you stop measuring yourself by what you finished, you might finally notice everything you actually built along the way.